we're making the final connections now. We're actually taking them. These are the pipes that are going to go into the building. So what they're doing now is they're trying to drain the line so they can add a couple more valves so they can have drains on that force main and this force main. And then we're going to run in and then into the building. This station here takes about 85% of the entire flow for the whole island. And that's all, the whole core district, all the way out to Cliff Road, all the way out to the high school. And then everything, Monomoy right now, currently. Monomoy is going to be coming off of this. But it takes, like I said, almost 3,000, almost 4,000 homes, this one station. So that's why when we had our force main issue, it was so critical to get this back online.
And where does it go from here?
It takes and pumps down two force mains, a 16-inch that we had the issue with, and then a 20-inch that goes down and up over Chicken Hill. So it has two means to get out of town. We only use one at a time.
The one that busted in the winter time.
That one was the primary one we've been using since I've worked here, and probably for 30 years prior to that. That was always the primary force main. The other force main was always a spare and was used during big storms.
Was there any way of turning that one off and turning this other one on, or was there not a switch for that?
There was, well, when we did the initial cut, so that we could take and hook in the bypass system, we had disconnected the 20-inch. One, we were going to inspect it before we used it again, and two, to get it out of our way.
Really? So it happened at the worst absolute time.
You couldn't ask for the perfect storm.
Murphy's Law?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the way it normally?
Just because of the elevations, everything seemed to work for this spot. And this was one of the earliest pump stations in the state back in the day that took and conveyed wastewater, and Nantucket was treating wastewater before a lot of most of the Cape still doesn't have sewer. What you got over here on the left side of these guys, that's the bypass system. That's what we installed to bypass the pump station so that we could still operate during construction. That's what those are on the left, and we'll go over and see those in a minute.
That's groundwater coming through.
So they're constantly pumping to get rid of the groundwater while they do their work.
What are they doing?
The one thing that we're doing here that's going to be new is we're putting an integral 4-foot high flood wall to protect the structure. So if flood water was to ever get here, we're going to have a wall, a structural wall.
You guaranteed it's coming in.
Yeah, well, it's coming in at some point.
Yeah.
It's going to be structural that they can protect the plant and the structure and everything else.
How high?
It's coming up to about, you can see the red line on the building?
Yes, I see it.
So it's going to be above, at flood level 8 on the elevations.
You can go around the state and do these things all the time?
Yeah.
This is Frank Ayotte from Hazen and Sawyer.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
He is our design engineer and then our on-site rep during the construction project.
Okay. And you're responsible for making sure this works properly, pretty much, or?
Pretty much, yeah. Make sure it's installed for the contract document.
Are you seeing a lot of this kind of breakdown in sewers that are close to the coastline?
Yeah, you know, in the Northeast, infrastructure. We have some of the oldest infrastructure in the country, and wastewater systems, as a station this old, is not unusual every 20, 25 years to really do a full rehab.
An interesting thing about when they changed the new FEMA flood maps, elevation 9 now is the new norm. That's where your first floor is supposed to be. The elevation of this first floor currently is elevation 5. So according to the flood maps, we're already 4 feet under that limit. So that's why we're going to be putting that new flood wall up here to get us to that limit. And it's going to be structural, so any extra pressure from flood waters won't be able to affect the structure. We're going to have big stop logs, so they'll be to stop any water from getting in. But if water does get in, when we get downstairs, you'll see why we're doing what we're doing. This is Harold Bull. He's the superintendent for RBO.
Hello, Harold.
He's the guy that's running the show here. So
when do you think you're going to be out of here?
Hopefully September completely.
It will, yeah.
They won't be doing a lot of work here in the summer.
Right.
Painters, electricians, and stuff. But
okay.
The major work will be complete by September. So.
All righty.
Prior to the renovation, all the electrical equipment sat on this floor over in this corner.
Yep.
So water would get into the building. So there was always a fear that the electrical could be completely shorted out. underneath this wooden top, there's a drop, there's a big hole in the floor so we can pull pumps out. Water would come in the door and then downstairs and flood the pumps, and they weren't designed to run underwater. What we've done now, when we see downstairs, is we're installing pumps that are designed to run underwater. So if this building was to ever get flooded again, the pumps will still run, and all the electricity is above elevation, so the water will never get this high. So this is going to be our new main electrical room. And these are all the main controls for all the pumps. Everything's just getting installed now. And this basically is what you see when you open one of these cabinets. You have to be, when it's energized, you have to be certified to ARC Flash standards. You have to wear special equipment and everything else like that. These are called the VFDs. This is the heartbeat of every pump. This lets the pump go up and down in speed. The level goes up, the pump goes up. The level goes down, the pump drops back down. And this is the kind of technology that's going in here and in Surfside. This is new, modern technology.
So we have 2 pumps, one here and one in Surfside.
There's 4 pumps going in here, but the plant's getting upgraded as well.
2 plants.
2 plants getting upgraded right now. So this is some nice stuff where we're going now.
Okay.
This is going to be the main brain of the pump. It's going to be a giant computer system, so we'll be able to run the plant from here and run the plant from Surfside.
What about, can you run it on your smartphone?
You're going to be able to dial in on the tablet, and actually if you see an alarm, and you'll be able to run the plant from your tablet.
You love that idea, don't you?
We got to get there. It's, you know, the old days of having to come down or dial in on the telephone. It's just a modern way. It's secure because it's not connected to the cloud. It's just, it's the only way to do it nowadays, so. We don't have anyone down here on America's Most Wanted, do we?
No, sir.
All right, so we're coming down to do a quick video.
Wow, this place is deep.
Oh, yeah.
How deep is this, from the ground down?
27 feet, I think it is, total.
Holy God! Just shy of 30 feet, huh?
These are all the new pumps. These great modules here, those are all the new pumps that we're taking and installing. What they are, they're called dry pit submersibles. They're designed to operate underwater. But you install them in a pit like this, they can still run, but if it ever floods, they're protected. And as you can see in the ceiling, it's gotten very busy in this ceiling. These are all the new valves for crossovers, draining. A lot of it's going to be automated so we can switch stuff back and forth. What we have here coming up is this is the wet well. This is where all the sewage comes into it. This is normally where all the sewage would come. It comes into a channel and then is diverted into each pump bay. And this has all been built. This is all new. They actually cut the wet well out to make it larger, and then we added all these channels.
So does the sewage sit here?
It comes in, well, it sits at a certain level, and the pumps just keep running up and down.
To push it to you out in Surfside?
Push it to Surfside, yep.
Wow. What kind of a pipe do you need? How big of a pipe? Is it one pipe that goes to Surfside? Or?
We have one pipe that comes in at 30 inches, and we have 2 pipes going out, one at 16 and one at 20 right now.
Rope good?
And it sucks individually
Rope
from these
good?
little boxes. But it ends up coming up, it's within 4 feet of the floor here. I mean, that's how much sewage sits here.
Yeah.
And it constantly just goes up and down, up and down.
That much sewage.
Well, it gives you...
How long would it take to fill
Fill
during
this up? Well,
yeah, like
in the storm it doesn't take very long
No,
at all.
but during the peak of the season. This is pretty full?
It gets to a certain level, about
And then the
76
pump
inches,
kicks in,
and then just sits there, and then up and down. And what that does, it gives you storage capacity. What's happening now with the bypass is we're using the collection system as storage. So we're a little limited on our storage now. When we get this back online, we can't wait. It's about 1.2 million gallons sitting in this area here. So this whole area here now is all raised. There's going to be a standby generator above flood level, so it will never get touched by water. Our odor control system is going to be out here. above water, and then there's going to be this walkway that you see here ties into that whole flood wall around the whole.
None of this was here before, though.
There used to be a little building here that had the generator in it
Yeah.
that did get water in it.
Got it.
Now all those problems are going away.
Is that tennis court staying there?
Yes,
That you
yeah.
know of? Yeah.
There's going to be another
What is that,
fence.
employee housing over there?
That's the dorms. That's
Their
yacht club
dorm.
dorms.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Tell you, it's a nice looking building. It really came out nice.
Yeah, it is nice looking, isn't it? You gotta have those. Those are your clamps. Heavy
These are all clamps. These are called mega lugs.
Yeah.
And they're designed when you tighten these up, they snap off. They get to a certain torque and they break, so that you know they're locked in place.
Oh,
And then we have all of our different valves and our different reducers and bushings.
you love this stuff?
I do.
Yeah, because before you took this job,
This is basically plumbing on a
yeah, I
large
know,
scale.
you were doing plumbing.
I love this stuff. This is
Yeah.
really cool stuff.
All right, we recently had an issue, was it in Sconset, with people throwing turpentine into the sewer?
We had a problem in Sconset with turpentine or paint thinner or paints. We don't know exactly. We did some testing and we got some results back, and the hit that we had was toluene. That's not pronounced it right, but it's an additive that's in paint thinners and paints and stuff like that. And everyone has painted their bedroom or their living room and gone over and washed their paintbrush off in the sink. Everyone has done it. But when you have 5 or 10 guys on a job and you got 20 jobs in the area going on, and that's happening, that's a toxic hit to a biological plant. And it completely wiped out the plant.
What do you mean?
It took and killed all the biology. So what we had to do is we had to bring in fresh sewage from Surfside and take it back out to the plant to reseed it with fresh biology.
This was in Sconset.
This was in Wisconsin, and it took us a couple days to get the plant back up to 100%. But it was constantly transporting sewage from in town out there to take and bring it back alive again. So it's an issue. There's so many projects going on right now, and
You mean projects as far as
like paint projects and
building?
People might just not know. They
No,
may
they
just
know,
not
David.
know,
They
or they know.
and
You
they
got to give
better
them the
know.
benefit of the doubt. I mean,
Should we have someone, I mean, I brought this up during the election while we were doing all the drive-by shoots. Should we have somebody that is just like called the enforcer, that could enforce some of these serious regs that we should really be watching over?
that's another.
what's your
Everyone's
view?
so busy. Could we have more staff?
No, like
But-
one guy,
Well,
one person.
One person to try to cover the whole island won't do it. And I have 3 people in the streets all day long. 3
But what if
collections
we had
guys.
one person that went from job to job, educating and overseeing, just like we have an environmental police officer?
Yeah.
I mean, how many of those do we have?
2.
Okay, so we get one enforcer.
It would certainly help.
There's
I mean,
other things they could be enforcing too.
we found going on inspections lately, we'll go to do a sewer inspection and someone has a permit for one house. We're actually finding 2 and 3 houses on the lots, if not more, on one permit. And people aren't paying the fees that are due. It's a loophole on how the process was done before. We've changed that process. So we do it. If someone wants to raise a house and put a new foundation under it, we make them get 2 permits. One to disconnect it, one to reconnect it. But it's only for one building. In the past, you could get 1 permit and it was covering multiple structures.
Yeah.
We've changed that.
What do you think it costs the town to have you repair the damage that was done in Wisconsin?
Manpower hours was days. Days of manpower hour,
Yeah.
and then
The hauling?
the hauling back and forth, the truck, the guys. We were short-handed because we have a couple guys out. I was actually out in the field with those guys for 2 days, so it took me away from my desk. But we're doing good. The plant's back up and running. It's 100% again. But we have to watch those toxic loads.
Sure we do. Now, we're all set for summer though?
Oh yeah.
Be able to handle.
I think we're going to have no problem with summers.
With all the building and all the new people coming in.
This pump station will be online
Yeah.
coming just before July. The end of June, this pump station will be up and active. It won't be completed because we got to do painting and everything else, but it will be online by the end of June.
Our infrastructure, this is my last question, our infrastructure for sewage and treating the water. With the amount of building and, the Glowacki properties and all the apartments and stuff we're going to be doing coming online in the next year or two, do we have enough resources to handle it?
Our infrastructure is aging. It's no doubt it's old. I mean, we still have some sewer mains.
Pipes, okay, pipes can be changed, but what about out in Surfside?
We have the capacity at the plant. We do have the capacity. It was built into all the planning in the past 2004, 2014, the CWMP. It planned for that. Right now we can handle 4 million gallons a day. We handle a little over 2 right now, so we have capacity. The issue now is, and the concern, and we're getting ready to undertake a sewer master plan, is the collections, the gathering of the sewage to get it to Surfside. A lot of mains are still 1917. We have a lot of 1920 sewer mains. Most all of Wisconsin is 1917. So we're working with the CMOM program and CCTV. We're very aggressively going after the collections to find out where our deficiencies are.
And with the flooding that we're definitely going to continue to have, if not get worse,
And the flooding, when
can those sewers handle seawater floods over and over
the
again?
flooding that we have during big storms is from here towards Jetty's Beach. That's a big issue because we do get hit with a big load of II.
What's that?
That's infiltration and inflow. That's water getting in cracks in the
Sure.
pipes, water getting in manhole covers.
Sure.
When we did the smoke testing after the force main failed, we actually found 9 huge open air connections on private property that we had to go seal. And that took out that probably took out 200,000 gallons a day during a storm. Any little bit we take out helps. People have a lot of sump pumps in their basement. That's an illegal connection to a sewer. You're not supposed to pump into a sewer. And there's houses all around town that are doing it.
So what's the answer? Are we going to, will our sewers that we spend all this money on be able to handle the floods, the seawater floods? Yes or no?
From the way I can tell you now, from the experience, we can handle the floods. It just adds a big burden to the system. And the one bad thing about that much salt water is it affects the biology at the plant.
You know it's coming.
So we do know it's coming.
If we don't have the technology to think first before we spend all this money on it.
Well, that's why what we're doing now is we're getting the tools finally.
Yeah, okay.
We're CCTV and everything. We just did 100,000 feet of camera work, so now we know where we have some deficiencies.
Okay.
So now it's going to be prioritized
You'll be able to watch a lot.
to get fixed.
That's good.
Currently, we have 17 flow meters around the island in manhole covers, trying to find out where these flows are coming from. So within the next 2 or 3 months, we're going to know if it rains on a Tuesday, how fast the water gets from Derrymore, Delaney, whatever, to the plant. We're going to see where the water's coming from. That's going to give us a lot of data that we really need.
All right, thank you, David, so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming down.